Thank you for joining me today. Each week when I record, I always set aside Friday afternoons to record a podcast episode. And I have a list of topics, things that I want to talk about. I make a list of things that you all tell me that you need help with. And I use that list to, decide what I'm going to talk about in the next few weeks. And then sometimes, inspiration just hits. And I'm like, okay, I need to get this off my chest. I need to bare my soul. And I think today is a perfect example of one of those times. So this last week, we've been talking about, what are we going to do in terms of goals and how are we going to accomplish those things, helping more women, and planning out like business strategy kinds of things, right? And as a part of that, I met with the member of our team who helps with marketing and strategy and all those things. And now I'm running ads so that I can, reach more people. Some of you maybe even saw some of those ads. Excuse me. And I hope if you see them, comment, like them, do something to help them get to more women. But my point is, we decided to run a new ad. And it's a video ad, and I recorded that this week, and I just wasn't happy with it. It just didn't say what I wanted it to say. And I've been bothered by that all week long. And I think that is what kind of was the beginnings of the tickle in the back of my throat, if you will, about recording this episode. I didn't know that at the time, but here's how it's coming out. So my point is, I listened to this week's podcast episode. And if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to episode, I think it's 43, okay? And so at the time that I'm recording this episode for you, that episode just released. And it was a client interview, beautiful woman named Angela. And she's the first client that I've interviewed on my podcast. And I was really excited about talking to her. But when I do those kinds of interviews, I don't write out a list of questions. The person I'm interviewing doesn't know what I'm going to ask them. I just really want it to be a conversation, right? And so I approached the client interview in the same way. And here's what came out of that. Angela started talking about what this journey is doing for her. And she didn't really talk a lot about the weight loss. And she even got emotional at at a point when we were talking. And it's because she was talking about the journey to knowing herself better, liking, even loving herself. And at one point she said that she had this pivotal moment in the journey. And she says, she got upset because the scale had gone up a little bit. She sat down at the table and she was talking to her partner and she was crying. And she said, I broke. I realized that this is not about the weight. And the thing is, Angela, like so many countless clients, come to me wanting to lose weight. Initially, that's what prompts them to have the discussion with me. They have goals to lose weight, menopause, all the things, right? All the things that probably you guys are listening to this podcast about. And I do help them lose the weight. But what I've come to understand is that these women value what they get besides the weight even more from working with me. And that is some version of what Angela explained. And that is, I got to know myself better. I got to know what I want, what I really want in this next phase of life. I got to know what would make me happy. I got to a place where I really understand who I am and how to be true to who I am in a much more authentic way. So I'm finally happy. And the weight becomes more of a secondary fringe benefit of this journey and this coaching program. And I thought about that as I was listening to her and afterwards, and I realized that, most of my most successful clients say some version of exactly that. And so going back to the recording of the ads that I did for this week, and they're running right now, and how I wasn't happy with them, I realized that the reason I wasn't happy with them is that in that ad, I talk about, which is very true, if you have hit menopause, you have stubborn fat on your body that you can't lose, you're sick of going to the doctor and him telling you that this is just a natural part of the aging process and you don't have to suffer through it. All of that is true. I help women with that. But that's not what makes what I do so special for the women that I help. What makes it so special is that it's not just about the food and the fitness. And that's why I'm recording this episode, because at this point, I have helped hundreds of women manage menopause, lose weight. I have helped them to deal with all of the struggles of perimenopause and menopause so that they stop feeling fatigued, so that they achieve their fat loss goals and their health goals. But more importantly, I have helped them to do that in a way that not only helps them finally feel comfortable in their own skin, but also helps them love themselves again, or for the first time ever. But it was really a personal journey for me to get to this space where I am now, being this confident, happy woman, and to helping other women to feel this way too. Because you see, all of my life, I struggled with my body image and my weight. I was stressed out and I was anxious. Now, looking from the outside in, probably people wouldn't know that, because even as I pursued, college degrees, hell, I have a PhD and I graduated top of my class most often. I built a successful career in education. I was a graduate professor at colleges here and universities here in Texas, and then advanced to vice president of instruction at one of the largest colleges here in this state. And I raised my kids and had a happy marriage. It took me a couple times to get that right, but I did. Through all of that, though, I still struggled. But there came a pivotal point, and that was in my early 40s. When my daughter had gone off to college, we were empty nesters for the first time. And I had accepted yet another position as I was, driven to pursue and advance my career. I'd accepted another new position, an advancement. It further promoted me in my career. And that put me finally, after 20 plus years, it put me finally in that 6-figure salary range for the first time in my life. Which is something that I thought, was like that. I was striving for that. It was going to make me happy. But it was a really high pressure position and it carried a ton of stress with it. And in the first 9 months in that new position, I had gained about 30 pounds. I was working, 60, 80 hours a week. And I basically got up each day. I went to work. I pushed hard all day long, handling problems, managing the instructional operations of the division that I was responsible for at that time. I pushed through, barely ate, drank coffee nonstop, pushed through the entire, day, sometimes not leaving until 6, 8, 10 o'clock at night. And I made that about an hour and a half commute at that time to our home. And I sat on the couch eating takeout, dinner, if I ate it all, quite frankly. And I fell asleep to TV until I dragged my ass to bed, and I did it all over again the next day. fast forward, Emily, our younger daughter, she went off to college that year. That was her senior year, my first year in that career. We put our house on the market and we were determined to move closer to my job, and we did. We moved closer to my job, cut my commute down. We moved into our dream home, and I realized it was like this kind of aha. I don't know that it was an exact moment, but over the next couple of months, I realized that I likely had fewer years ahead of me than I did behind me. And I realized too that I definitely had fewer years left in my life if I didn't change. And I didn't want to live the way that I had been living anymore. I didn't want the second half of my life to be dominated by the things that it had been in the first half. I didn't want to be constantly uncomfortable in my body. I didn't want to have, self-image and body image issues. I didn't want to wake up thinking about how uncomfortable my clothes were going to be and how self-conscious I was going to be about my body and what was I going to eat and that I should start a diet. I didn't want to be constantly uncomfortable in my mind either. And so I started looking for a way to change that. And I knew that I wanted to do it in a healthy way. But there just really wasn't anything out there for me and for the kind of busy life that I was leading and probably that you are leading right now. And frankly, there wasn't anything out there that was designed for the life that I wanted to live. I didn't want to live in a gym working out obsessively, or live in the kitchen meal prepping and weighing my food and calculating and counting calories or macros. I don't even know at the time if I knew what a macro was, to be honest, but I didn't want to track every bite that went into my mouth. So I decided that I had to create the plan for my own healthy change. In short, I learned, I tried, and I cracked the code. And as my body changed, I noticed an even bigger evolution. I was no longer comfortable just tolerating the uncomfortable parts of my life. And that's really a simple way of putting it, but I think you'll get what I mean. Primarily, I became increasingly more disenchanted with my profession. I felt out of alignment with who I worked with and the system of higher education that I was working in. And at the same time, other women were noticing my change and they were asking me to help them. And so I did. And that was actually, looking back now, I realized that was actually the beginning of what would become Lori Dottie Lifestyle and our 12-week coaching program, in fact. And in, fast forward a few more years, and in 2020, with what we all know was world changing with the pandemic, and, through that pandemic and the college that I was working for at that time, I had promoted yet again. I was in a different, even larger college, and that college that I was working at was changing in a number of ways and for a number of reasons. And I was way out of alignment with the change that was going on there. And so I got to a point where I felt completely at odds with my career. But by that time, I was physically and mentally strong enough to make a probably pretty risky decision to leave that career, the career that had been spanned almost 30 years, a retirement that was going to be fully funded in a matter of 2 years. And I took that very courageous leap and I retired to pursue the dream and purpose of helping women who are like I was. And if you're listening to this, that may very well be you. women who are battling their bodies and waging an internal war too. And since then, I have helped, like I said, hundreds and hundreds of women achieve their fat loss goals and their health goals. But it's more than that. And I think this is at the core of why I'm so unhappy with the ad that is currently running to reach other women who don't know anything about any of this story, and why I'm sharing it with you today, because it is so much more than just helping women with fat loss goals and even physically helping them with their physical health goals. I help them, sure, with food and fitness, so that you lose that stubborn menopause weight around your middle, the back fat, the arm wiggles, right? And women who work with me learn sustainable methods for keeping that weight off. And I'm really, really proud of that. Methods that work, that fit into your busy lifestyle, that are right for your body where it is metabolically and hormonally at this transitional period of life. But I recognize from my own journey and my expertise that this transitional period in life, it is not just a physical shift for us. It is not just something that can be solved with the methods for fixing, if you will, those physical shifts. This is a mental and emotional shift too. Everything about our brains and our bodies are changing. And so the work that we do in that foundational 12-week program that I developed is so much more comprehensive than teaching women how to eat and exercise. It is a very comprehensive self-discovery journey that is part of that program. I help women like you get to the root of your struggles. We solve those issues so that you never fight those demons again. And as those women do that, they learn who they are and they love themselves again. Or, like I said, for the first time ever. I wanted to help women physically and mentally. So they have the body that they feel confident in. They have the energy to be active in their 50s, their 60s, and beyond that. And I help them explore who they are, what makes them happy, so they finally take care of themselves in the way that they've taken care of everyone else for so many years. I know what it's like to have that struggle with your body and that struggle in your mind, and to feel like you're just not as happy and fulfilled as you should be. Despite having the career, despite having the great kids, despite having the happy marriage, you're just not as happy and fulfilled as you should be. But I also know you don't have to stay in that space. I accomplished getting out of there, getting to this place of mental and physical happiness, no joy actually, and I would love to help you get there too. And so that's why I'm recording this episode, because I just needed to capture what this is really about. I needed to capture beyond what that 30-second ad says. And now, having recorded this, I'm going to shoot a new ad. And somehow I'm going to say all of what I just shared with you in 30 seconds. So I can get that out to women who are on social media saying the same old crappy message again. You want to fix your metabolism? And they're like, oh, rolling their eyes, right? Because I help women fix their metabolism, but I help them with all this other stuff too. And that's really why our clients make a true transformation. It's how I made a true transformation in my life, and it's how I help them to do it. And that's a big, big difference from the other crap that you see out there, you guys. So if that's of interest to you, stick around, listen to more and more episodes that I have that will come pouring out of my soul in the weeks and months and years to come. And do me another favor. Share this with a woman you know who could also relate to everything that I've just talked about, and in some way could be helped by listening to the podcast each week, by maybe joining our Total Wellness group, that free group for women over 40 who are struggling with their body and the weight and all of those things, but also just kind of have that missing piece. That's where I give a lot of free tips and strategies and mindset kinds of help. And certainly share this with anyone, and that may be you too, who is looking for more of a change. They're at that precipice where they're like, okay, I'm actually ready to do something. I want to invest my time and my energy and even my money in solving this problem. And I don't want to live the next half of my life like I have the first half. If you can relate to that, then there's a link below in the show notes below this episode. Click the link, schedule a call to chat with me. That's when I can really talk with you one-on-one, and we can have a heart-to-heart. It's like talking to an old friend. I'm going to share some information with you. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions to get some clarity around what's happening, and I will tell you if I can help you. And I will tell you if I can't. But if I can, and I have an opening for a new client, I may invite you to come into our 12-week program and actually make the transformation that you so deeply desire for both your body and your mind. Thank you so much for being here, spending this time with me this afternoon, and, listening to all of this, and just thinking a little bit more about what you want for yourself. I always appreciate you spending time with me, and I'll see you right back here next time for who knows what I will share. Bye.